5 million collected for 7 different companies in 6 years.
You're a mum, and then you started this flexi job, and then somehow pulled something off. So what was that story? What was that job like when you were a mum?
All right. So I have a history in finance. I have an economics and accounts degree from European university. And I was always working in, actually, that's why I got the qualification, because I started working in finances, a very cool position at the big telecom company back in Hungary. And then I really liked it, so I decided to get the official qualification. Then moved to New Zealand. It was now over 20 years ago. And when my first daughter was born, I just could not go back to 9 to 5. So that was nearly 18 years ago now. So I just wanted to stay home and raise my own child and spend all that time and experience with her. And later on, 3 years later, I had another daughter born as well. And that was even more against that, what I wanted to achieve as a parent, to go back to work 9 to 5. So I started my own businesses. But after 10 years, I felt that I really would like to be in that environment where I meet people every day, unlike through my business, because it was different. I did meet the people, but it was like once a week or twice a week, so it wasn't constant, and I was missing that social aspect of my life. So I decided to go back to work, so to speak, and I had a short experience with a local company, which I did not enjoy. It was a part-time position in credit control. But later I found an amazing opportunity. And actually I was lucky enough to choose from 2 companies where I wanted to work from. And one was really well-known, a really big brand and a multi-million-dollar company. The other one was a much smaller scaled and not so well-known company. And when I had the interview, I was really levitating towards this opportunity because they were just really humane and we really clicked on a personal level. And their working conditions were very flexible in location, time frame. And they also gave me the opportunity of shaping my own role. So when after the second interview, we clarified everything. They were looking for someone who, apart from accounts, has business mindset, because it was already in plans to rebrand the company and make it more public, because before that it was operating just from the personal referrals and the existing client referrals. And they really liked that my really big specialty is credit control. Everyone is usually afraid of credit control. We can talk about it a bit later, why it's so scary for people to handle the overdue invoices that are not getting paid and what are the implications and effects. But these were the 2 main points that me running my own businesses before. So obviously I had the business mindset, not just an employee mindset, and bringing in this wealth of expertise in the credit control field. So just like I had 2 companies to choose from, they had 2 candidates to choose from, but luckily they went with me. So that's how I began this chapter that we are talking about today.
And well, on credit control, we'll get to how you build your way up the ranks, and even like how to be a mother and also how to be a career person. And I'll be curious about, because there's a big push for like, put your career first, and then, have a baby when you're 40 or not have them at all and try and grow. It feels unfulfilling. But on the credit card, so someone's not paying their bills. Do you turn up with 10 men and they just kick their door in, or how are you getting them to pay the money?
It's exactly the image that people have in their minds. So in my experience, why business owners don't take this challenging role on because they are afraid of ruining the relationship with that client. They are afraid of losing them or building a bad reputation. And plus, they don't know where to start. So actually, just backing up a little, I had this credit control experience in New Zealand before my pregnancy. So when I was working in the office environment for different companies, because I started with temping jobs, just temporary, 1 month here, 5 months there, 12 months there, and then a more permanent job. And I just noticed this pattern that they are just, there and growing the list. So once I first was asked, oh, can you look into this one, this big list of clients not paying at all or certain invoices. And I started investigating. And I think that was the beginning and the key in it all, that I was curious. I didn't go into the whole process that, oh my gosh, they are awful because they are not paying and they want to rip us off, all these things. I just simply wanted to know why they are not paying. And at the first company, I was asked to really approach the whole thing very gentle. We don't want to lose them. We'd rather write it off, and all those things. And later on at another company, they practically shaped every email, created every email and communication phone call scripts with the clients like they were some horrible criminals, awful people need to be punished. And so between the two, I created my own methods because neither of them were, the most effective. So I met these methods in the middle. I'm definitely not coming from the place of, I look down on you and I think you are awful and I will punish you approach. But it's not as soft that we let the payments go if, we know that the company is right to get that money. So I created this very unique method where I approached the clients the right way with the right wording and the right mindset and communication. And it's not just that achieving amazing success. I lost count, but when I last looked about a year ago, I think I was up to like 5 million collected in, for 7 different companies in 6 years or something like that. So talking about big money, and it really impacts the companies because that money, or at least most of it, because sometimes you figure out that they don't agree with something or they don't feel what the invoice includes, they got in services. So that's why they are holding back. So then we investigate how much of the invoice they should be really paying. So that money belongs to the company because they worked for it, and how it affects the cash flow and the budgeting and the profit and loss, that has such a major role in a company's life. So I'm really glad that I can tackle this big thing for them.
So how does it work? So you got to call them, you show up, you send letters, you
definitely don't go to anyone's house or office.
I would do that.
Letters are very old-fashioned now, so.
Okay, so calls. All right, so how does a call look? So you got this person, they owe $200,000, and then what's the biggest invoice that you've had, and how did you call them?
I think we are talking about in the 10,000. So, and it can be anything from $57 to in the 10,000s. So a lot of the volume is large in numbers of invoices and clients. Jeez. I'm talking about, during these years. So phone calls are the most effective, but I always follow up in writing. So we have something to refer back to, if anything happens and actually in 2025, it's a long overdue thing, but I'm going to launch a credit control course for people who don't want to hire anyone to do it for them, or they may even have their accounts person within the company. They just don't have the right methods how to execute it. So instead of, let's say, hiring me to do this job for them, if they want to tackle it internally or themselves, then they will have the tools with this course.
It's kind of crazy. Like, I mean, you just call them, ask them for the money empathetically. I don't know. I know how it's like same thing with getting sales. Like, I shouldn't have a job because all you need to do is go call someone and ask them to buy your thing, and then you've got a business. So how do you mentally prepare yourself? So you're about to call someone, maybe they're like, being reluctant or avoidant, and you build in your mind they're a villain, they're just an asshole. So it helps you justify your fear that you're not actually taking action. So how do you mentally prepare for the call, and how does it start? Like where do you have like a spot you try to hit? Like you just try to ask them this question and go this route. Like what's your structure?
So now that I'm doing it for years for certain companies, and they have their clients for certain years, and if I happen to, have had to call them many times, we already have a relationship, so we may start with a joke at the beginning. But, if it's completely new, or in any case, I have my report, so I go through that process first and do a little bit of investigation, whether everything is in the right place or it's an internal error in reconciliation or whatsoever. So I don't want to call up anyone that, hey, you owe me August invoice. And they say, but I paid the August invoice. And I said, no, I received it for September. Oops, I should have reconciled it for August, not September. So it can be, an error on our side. So these things are important to investigate first, and then having a look at just in general the history, how they were paying in the past, whether it keeps happening or it's just a one-off or whatsoever. And then it gives me a picture, knowing that it might be just they are missing the copy, or, if I'm familiar with the company, they may have cash flow issues, or it can have so many reasons, or I know that it's a complex structure and they go through their approval, managers to approve. So it takes a long time, and all these things. So I investigate these things first, and I also make an order, which one is the oldest and which one is the highest amount. So I start making phone calls. And I just usually ask, hey, I'm hoping, my system shows that this invoice is overdue. I'm hoping you can help me. What's the hold up with the payment? So that's my approach. That I'm just asking questions first. I'm not going, hey, you haven't paid this invoice. How dare you? And you have to pay it by tomorrow, otherwise I take you to court.
Then that doesn't work. Wow. Well, it's interesting that help thing's so powerful. I used to like door knock, like I book an appointment and they didn't show up, but I still have to sell something. So I just door knock the neighbors. I was like, hey, I wonder if you could help. And then I'll describe an issue they probably have, because we used to help them with mobility. So usually in that area, there's some people with similar mobility issues. Mm-hmm. So you say something like, oh, I'm wondering if you can help. I was meant to meet with this lady and she had troubles with the mobility and I was going to help her with that. I wonder if you know someone that was wanting, like, it doesn't cost anything. I was wondering if you know someone, because their need to help is huge. Like most people, if you take the time to build rapport and genuinely take an interest in them, they most want to help you, even the psychopaths, because they get some sort of gain from it. And you come across those.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
What else do you do in terms, so you ask for help and it seems like you're attacking the reason as opposed to attacking the person. Like, oh, what's the reason? Let's work out how to solve that reason together.
Yeah.
Can you help me?
Yeah, exactly. And I know that in larger corporations, I'm not dealing with the business owners directly, because they are not a one-man band anymore. So it's a pure account payable lady. It's not her fault, most likely, that I didn't get paid. And a lot of communication error, between the departments in the client's companies and, all these things. So I have all this procedure, it's obviously more complicated than this. That's why I'm doing this course, because there are certain steps, but if you go through the steps, and I even have templates, how to word the emails and in which frequency to send them if it's not resolved straight away, or you set a deadline, or you offer, like a payment plan or anything like that. So I will just walk everyone through this process with the templates and the possible outcomes and how to prepare, how to make that call, how to handle the overdue invoices and how to resolve them. It's very rarely I had to refer someone to B Corp, which is a debt collection agency. So that's really the last resort. We try to do it, without having to use that step.
It can really escalate. Because when I started the business, I wasn't very good at it, so I started owing money. There was this ticket. I couldn't afford the parking because all my accounts were in overdraft, so I took cash out. So I had cash. I was like, I'm going to go pay for the parking with cash, and I go to put it in, and it didn't work. So I videoed myself putting it in. Hey, I'm trying to pay, I can't. And then I went to court because I got a ticket, and they said, "No, that's not a reason." And I was like, "Okay, well, I can't pay the ticket," and it just escalated. And then they almost got a warrant for my arrest. And then they could just possess stuff as well. I was talking to a guy that worked at the court. They just walk in like, "Oh, that's valuable. Let's take that." So it gets pretty messy. So I'm glad your approach is.
Yes, it does. It does. Yeah. And, we are all humans and make mistakes and things happen. So for me, the only thing that can't be resolved when someone shows absolutely no intentions to cooperate, or at least, meet halfway through or whatsoever, that's when we have real issues. But it's really hard to resist my methods, to be honest. So
Undefeated.
we have internal jokes when, my clients say that, "Oh my gosh, I don't know how you do it." You call them and they are already paying. And sometimes they overpay. They pay the next month as well in advance. So they rather be ahead than behind.
What do you see, like the people that don't pay? Do you notice, like, do you have a superpower of reading people now that you've reconciled $6 million of debt? What, like, you see them, you're like, okay, this person's going to email 4, they're going to sign up, or this person's going to go to Bake, or like, what's the makeup of someone that doesn't pay? Have you noticed anything? Like their attributes, they're victims, or they get angry?
Oh, they just don't like communicating. They like cutting off the communication, and they just keep repeating themselves, even though come back to them in an email that, just disproving what they are saying, why they are not paying. But it really, honestly, doesn't happen too much.
What's the worst thing you've seen in business where someone's just like completely stitched someone up? Like I was talking to a guy, he was in partnership with someone, and the person took all the money in the bank account, went to Afghanistan.
No, I just saw people who just simply refuse to pay and refuse to communicate. And then some of them even refused when they got to B Corp. So that was, actually, I haven't filed anyone with B Corp apart from that one company who really, handled people who didn't pay like criminals. But most people started paying the monthly installments through B Corp, but we don't have to communicate. So actually we can't. So it has to be between B Corp and the client. But of course, if they are ongoing and they are still on board, we have some sort of communication. But I honestly, just the most extreme case was that they didn't even respond to B Corp either. So, yeah.
And that's when you show up and you're knocking, hey, how you going?
Exactly. Here is a basket for you, just a present to make peace.
Well, it works, like reciprocation. Like, I mean, any bad thing a person does, they need to vilify you to justify their action. Like if someone's going to cheat on you, they'll start saying, oh, they don't love me, they don't do this, they don't do that. Or there's some compelling, they're doing it for the greater good. Like you look at all the worst things ever done in history, it's for a good reason in their mind. They're trying to save
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make it right though, but
No, it's still bad.
Absolutely. And I think the other aspect of this role was establishing the protocols within the company, because there was nothing in writing. And in business, the repetition and the automation is just so important. Because let's say that I established all these protocols, but if I kept them in the head, if anything to happen to me, then the company will have that loss, because they don't have it in writing and they can't pass it on to anyone. Or even when we grow the team, and someone takes over some aspects of my role from me, then it's already in writing. So the training is already provided. So that was very important aspect that I did for the company. So, and I think what we are trying to tell our audience, my story, with this work is, I think, two aspects that you highlighted, right? How to juggle the career and the motherhood, and what kind of success you can achieve that some people may say, oh my gosh, can it really happen, right? So which one shall we start with, Ryan? Which aspect?
Well, I mean, a lot of successful women I speak to that have children, they have a sense of guilt. I'm failing in some aspect of my life, either as a mother or in my career. And then when you put more time in your career, you feel bad. So how do you find that balance between you want to progress your career, but you also don't want to be a bad mother?
So I think for me, it was a very good solution that I was running my own businesses when my girls were really little, until they were 10 years old. And I shaped everything around their nap time, their sleep time, and whatever I needed to do for them, the school trips later on, and taking them to mainly music when they were little, and going to the library and arranging play dates, and, obviously doing the basics, making the meals and everything, and playing with them. So that came first. And when I had extra time, which was not much, but then I attended my business, so I put them first, and I never felt guilty. Of course, sometimes I felt guilty when, let's say, they were playing for 10 minutes and I knew they were going to be okay. They didn't need me. And I tried to reply to my emails, and I was in the middle of an email replying, and, I had the flow of thoughts and everything, and they came in the middle of it. Oh, mom, this and that. And then, oh my gosh, I need to finish this email. Am I being selfish or a horrible mom? And things like that. But in general, I think I managed to create this environment that I could have best of both worlds. I mean, really tired and exhausted and lack of sleep and everything. So it's not like everything is cupcakes and rainbows. But I managed to juggle the two, reasonably smoothly.
What kind of business were you running when they were growing up?
So the first one I started making personalized items for kids, like with their initials, like cushions and aprons and stuff, because I made these for my girls, and my friends said, oh my gosh, can you make me one? And, it's totally have to pay you, and you would make it as a business. So I did that for a bit. And then I took over a market in Oriva. So it was just a general market mixture of bric-a-brac and craft. And that time, from this, sewing for kids, I evolved into making some Christmas creations like table runners and things like that. I know it's just so far away from finances, but I was always very creative as well. And then when I had a stall at the market, the organizer said that we only have a couple of more, and no, I didn't find anyone taking it over because it's so much hard work. And I was thinking, oh, actually, tell me more. So this is how I took over and made it an Oriva craft market. And then I opened up one in Milford and then in Browns Bay and on the North Shore. And I got inquiries from the local business associations. So the Milford and the Browns Bay Business Association was the same manager. And then the Oriva Business Association asked me to do big events for them, like the Oriva Boulevard Festival, to arrange stores. And then in Milford, they have 2 big annual events, and then Browns Bay, the Christmas parade. And, from there, it just grew and grew. So
Interesting.
actually,
Wait, how do you run that? Like, okay, so you turn up, you're at the market, you're trying to hustle people. Hey, come over here, buy my thing, and then they say, oh, we can't be bothered running it. You're like, oh, let me run it. How do you
yeah.
grow that, and how do you monetize it? Like, what's the whole business model for a market?
Yeah, that's a very interesting industry, especially in New Zealand. It's very competitive because the venues are limited in terms of good exposure, fulfills the parking requirements and the space and public and everything. So it's not easy at all. I had a giant database towards the end of 2,000 vendors who, kept rotating and coming to different events and markets. And I had to work together with the council. The council has lots of regulations, especially when you use a park or a public space. And then I had to work together with the business associations because, the businesses came with lots of requests and what to do, what not to do, and not seeing the benefits, at the beginning until the event happened, how much extra food traffic we deliver to them, and all these things. It's very, very complex. And then on top of that, you have to do all the marketing to let the public know, to let the stallholders know, and all sort of public relationship management and fulfilling health and safety and creating the floor plan, how to fit in the stores, what kind of space people have. And yeah, it's just very, very complex.
Interesting. Okay, so do you rent the venue and then you fill it with people and charge them
Yes.
more to cover the risk? So what does it look like? What's an example of one? You've got, I don't know, 15 people and you're charging them $200 a weekend or something. What is it at? How does the numbers work?
Yes. So it was always my risk, whether, I had to pay for the venue no matter what, whether I could fill it up or not. And, I had to hire musicians for entertainment and things like that, So it was just simply make one work harder to fill the venue because you already have an non-negotiable expenses to cover. So it's your job to fill the venue, to cover the cost and cover your work as well and make some profit to feed your family.
Where do you even find do you go into business and say, hey, do you want to have a stall on the week just to sell testers? Like, how do you even fill it? Or do you go to other markets and poach them? Like, because I don't even know where they are.
I did a little bit of that. It wasn't well received at the beginning when I was desperate. But first of all, the communities, the stallholder community will recommend these places to each other. There is an online platform for all the events in New Zealand, and building my own email list as well, and building up. I didn't have a website, but I had social media. That time I was doing Facebook and Instagram.
And that's tough because the stores will attract people if they're good stores, but you don't attract the good stores unless you have people. How would you advertise the people? Well, how would you get them there? Would you go do 5,000 flyers in the area? Do you offer free stuff?
Actually, I had flyers as well, and I had uni students handing it out during the market, and where people were. There are so many things to do, and just like what I'm doing now in my other business, the Red Hill Boss, it's all about marketing, right, and establishing a brand. Because there are different type of markets, and you have to let people know. what kind of stores and quality you are having, and the extra entertainment, and all these things. So it comes down to marketing. And I think that's why and it ties into the business boost we are talking about now. Just got very sidetracked, which is all right, because it's all part of the story and everything interconnects in life and business. That I ended up doing my own graphics and marketing material, designing the flyers and the banners for the social media and the posts and everything, because I don't know, just my expectations usually were not met, or it was too slow or too expensive, when I hired the graphic designer and this and that. And then I got into Canva when it was really, really new. I remember I was one of the first clients, and the owner personally messaged the members, for, oh, what else are you looking for? What can we build and stuff. It was super cool. And look at them now. But yeah, so I ended up doing that part, which ties back into what, how I progressed in a business boost. So from that employment and shaping my role, and bringing in my unique blend of expertise with the business mindset and the credit control and being super organized and creating these protocols and procedures for the companies. It was also, like I said at the beginning, from the interview, it was in the air to just rebrand the company from the name to the looks. And actually, we had no online presence at all, just to establish everything. And there was really no one else to do this at the company, so I took it on. And then when we completed the whole setup and we were ready to go like live, then we had this conversation, and Kevin, the owner at that time, he offered, partnership in the company. And he said, look, I don't have to do that, but I really appreciate your hard work and everything you've done for the company. And I see you as a perfect person to make these decisions and, grow the company in the future. So it was really a life-changing moment, because you don't hear these stories every day. And like he said, he didn't have to do that, but he did. And yeah, it was over a year ago now, and really been enjoying working and growing the company and onboarding some new team members. And, we have really amazing plans for 2025, and we have new clients as well. So everything has been, well, I would say over exceeding any expectations. Of course, the beginning, once we went live, it was like, okay, so now what? How do we get clients? The typical and the classic issue. And it did take a little bit of time to gain momentum with everything that was prepared. So, yeah.
So what is it you guys do now? So, yeah, what are you actually doing? I mean, we talked about all your markets and stuff, but
Yeah. Let's get back to finance. So what Business Boost is very unique in the market, because we do, so it won't sound like very unique at the beginning, so just hear me out. So we do strategic bookkeeping, and we don't do accounting ourselves, but we have third parties who are on board, and we love working together. So usually our clients use their services for, the tax accounting and the final tax returns and fringe benefit tax and R&D and all those things. That's really, really great. And the third level is that we give business advisory. So once someone, usually most clients come into our world thinking that they did a pretty good job in bookkeeping themselves. But then when we start working together, then everyone realizes that it was not a great idea, because it's a messy account. Like, it's just insane. Because obviously when you don't know what's important and what needs to be done, you just do something, but it doesn't necessarily make it right. But that's okay. They gave it their best shot, and then we tidy up and we put everything into its place and we create a structure. So that's phase one. That's just the foundation. And then the next level is when we create the management reports from this data, the bookkeeping, the daily bookkeeping. And then we see the financial health of the business. And the key here is for people, and my message, that, hiring an accountant for doing the year end and just the tax returns will only make them realize at the end of the year what they should have done differently, but they can't go back in time and change it. So they missed out on a full year's opportunity. But working with us, because we have monthly meetings and we showcase all these management reports on a level that they can understand, because it's, otherwise it can be really hard and hard to understand, or very dry and, just too financy, meaningless. So we translate it to a level that is really easy to see and pinpoint things. And then they have a chance every single month to tweak things. And where our power lies is with our highest, services, that we also give them an advice. So we make a plan together because we know what's possible to achieve in the industry. So we set a KPI, a target number, but we also discuss, what they can do, how to achieve it. So monitoring those action steps and what they deliver and how they change the structure of and the outcome of the profit and loss, that's where the really big value lies, because every single month they have the opportunity to improve their company, to knock down the expenses that they don't need, to realize where they can make money, what else they can add to their services. And the other big thing is really the recurring revenue that we have them with. So that's so important for an exit strategy or investment, and for their own sake as well, because if they know that this month I'm going to earn this amount of money no matter what, then they can plan everything over that.
I'll be curious. So someone was saying the big turning point, they were in HR, the last podcast guest, and they were doing forecasting and thinking ahead. Well, in terms of data-driven decisions, like, what are key things you can read from those reports that help your business be better? Like for me, I just focus on the sales side of things, what percentage of people are showing up, what's the sales cycle, what's the conversion rate, what part they're falling off. But I've never sat down to the numbers. So what are the key numbers you look at, and what do they tell you, and how do you make decisions on that?
Yes, so that's where it comes in, how we structure the accounts and the P&L, because we like to break it down, what belongs to the recurring revenue as an expense, which is also in most cases recurring. So we see the variation between the two. So we know how much investment it takes to achieve this amount of money. And then we have the same for the non-recurring revenue and the costs that belong to them. And there is a lot of ways to separate these expenses and income, because in very commonly, at companies, they just throw it away. This is income and this is expense, but it's not that simple. We need to see that's how we can tell where to save money or generate more money, when we see what investment generates what type of income. So what does it take to earn this amount of money? And then if there is the ratio is not that great, then we have a look why is the expenses larger than the income or very close to each other. And then we have a look, is it, if it's a type of business that do subscriptions, does it need to be increased, the subscription prices, or if it comes down to timesheeting, then what is the ratio within the timesheets of the team members, the chargeable and non-chargeable. So there are so many things we can have a look and analyze. And from there, it's just a matter of making a plan how to improve that.
Well, would there maybe be specific examples? They're not the company name, but like there was something going on with the numbers. Because I can imagine you could look at numbers and you could be like, okay, something's wrong here. There's something wrong with the salesman or the leadership. There's some challenge there, or the cost is way more expensive than what it should be compared to other industries. So what specific examples, how the numbers, you look at them and then you realize something?
So we had looking into the timesheet part, what the team members enter as chargeable, non-chargeable. So there was a lot of improvement. So it came down to not keeping track every single day, just trying to throw it in at month's end and not remembering what it was. So just chucking it into non-chargeable, right? Or not having the right agreement with the client, what's chargeable, what's not non-chargeable. So that's another good one that we discovered. Or just as simple as an example, when we had a price increase, it was a really small amount, but with many items. And then instead of, it being implemented in the next invoicing cycle, it's just, software error. It was dismissed, and then everything came out with the old pricing. And in the process of issuing the invoices, which was me that time, I saw that, oh gosh, this doesn't add up. It should be higher. And I quickly let the team know, hey guys, can you have a look? Something is wrong. And they quickly altered the error. And, we were able to implement the price increase as planned from that month. And they already gained that profit. So they would have lost it without that, attention to detail.
So essentially the finances are kind of like evidence of problems. Something's not right here, and then you can dig further. Is that sort of how you use it, or how else can you use the numbers for the business?
Yeah, and the other side as well is evidence of, when things are going well, but obviously we have to do the groundwork, and that's the first step, what you said. We have to see the issues that, that something is not quite right here, or even just between the months. Oh, this expense this month is much higher than the previous few months. Why is that? Let's drill into it and have a look. And yeah, sometimes it's valid. It just happened. Maybe that was an annual subscription, or just an extra large cost that simply had to happen. But sometimes, or it's coding to the wrong account, or just something that needs to be reviewed, whether it's necessary in the future or not. So just really keeping a close eye on every detail, and then having a bird eye view as well. That's what Kevin is really good at, my business partner, and we are lucky to have Lorraine as a finance manager on board as well. So they always have a look at these high-end details and just pinpoint everything. Oh, this is odd. Let's look at it. Why? Why is that? Why is it different?
Yeah, it makes sense, because I'm doing a new thing, partnering with someone on a building community, and we're both speculating on what the right offer is for the website. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking, I don't know. So let's do both. Let's test it. So I think the data part's quite interesting way to approach business. Well, so have you learned anything in terms about smart incentives? Like, for example, if you pay your staff 10% more than the market, you get 100% result or something. Or like, have you noticed good financial approaches that lead to the success of the business and the way they treat staff?
Very good questions, Ryan. Okay. I think what I've learned, that everything is so individual. Like you were talking about the incentive. It's very funny you brought it up, because we have it. One of our companies, our clients, have that system, and it doesn't work the same for everyone. So what inspires one doesn't inspire the other. So it's just, I think the human, what I learned at this company from the beginning, seeing that they just accept everyone the way they are and they don't have crazy expectations. So they just let it flow naturally and express appreciation many ways, annual super cool Christmas events and functions, fun activities, then a nice dinner and, a lot of good times. And yeah, just really letting them be and trusting that they will do their best and giving them all the tools and the environment to succeed with this, and just respect them as individuals, that everyone is different, everyone works differently. Some likes working in the office because they need that structure, some like working from home sometimes, and it's okay. So just really giving the trust and that building that connection that is both ways, not just, in the old fashioned work environment and the boss is the boss and then you just practically have to give up your life and just blindly follow everything. Doesn't matter how tired you are or how unfair things are, you just do it. So it's the opposite when you want your employees to be happy as well.
Yeah, I feel sorry for those sort of leaders that have been burnt, mistrust, micromanage, and then they get further reinforced by that. And then all they do, because they want to manage everything, is take on more work for themselves instead of decentralized leadership, where you're allowing people to lead you and take control of things.
It's interesting you mentioned the micromanagement, because the shorter term part-time job I had before this one, I was a micromanager there, and was just down to the level of breathing. It was ridiculous. And luckily by that time I had worked through all my insecurities and self-doubts and everything. So I saw through why she was doing it in the first place as a person, her, background and personal circumstances. And I didn't let it get to me too much, but it was not a healthy environment to be in. And that's why I left, because I knew that she couldn't pick on my work because it was immaculate and I over-delivered rather than under-delivered. But with all these little silly things, how I breathe when I talk to a client, if you just if you make me aware of it, it will just get worse, right? Because if someone pimps, oh my gosh, your breathing is so terrible when you do that, then your mind will be fixated on it and you can't get out of that loop. So it doesn't even make any sense to do these things. But, I noticed myself just keep talking about it after work and just being really, not upset, probably is not the right word, but just quite preoccupied with this whole aspect, when I just wanted to go there and do my job and go home. It was just 5 hours every day. So micromanagement is really horrible and just really it's just the opposite effect what an employer or a manager should achieve with their team.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, I get it. My natural inclination is to do that, not trust people, overmanage them, and but you hire them to free you up. You hire someone. Like I think more people should retreat recruitment like sales. It's like, okay, I need to talk to 1,000 people to find exceptional people, and I need to sell to them, because if they are exceptional, then everyone wants them. So like the whole thing is structured wrong. It's like, why should you work for me? Like anyone that's remotely talented will just leave. They're just like, well, you're selling to me. I've got 10 offers. Why would I even be here? But anyways, what's just on the insecurity part, like when you're in an environment that's not good for you, and maybe you've got in the back of your mind, you might have a subconscious belief that that's how people should treat you. How do you build the courage to walk away from an environment like that?
Well, in that particular setting, it wasn't easy, because I think subconsciously, I believe that that's my good opportunity or my only option. So I think first I had to convince myself that I don't need them. I can do better. I can find accomplish something much better than this, where I'm happy, and more appreciated. So yeah, I think I was just really, towards the end, I was just getting through the days. And then actually I wanted to quit before Christmas. But then another key member just announced before me, which was quite a big hit, on the small office. And then, well, silly me, still feeling sorry for the company and the managers. Oh, okay, then I just wait a little, but I just couldn't hang on longer than January because things were getting really bad. And there were some software issues, that affected my work. Long story, but anyway, so, with the addition of that, I just decided to throw in the towel. And yeah, it was an interesting experience the last month because the manager wasn't there herself. She was battling her health issues, and practically I was doing my best in the office while the other teammate already left. And trying to take on everything with a software that wasn't working, and I was not getting any help or anything. And then at the end, I was blamed that I didn't do my job properly. Yeah, okay, I couldn't. The last month, yes, sure as hell, I could not do as much, but I found ways to get around the software and get things manually, and still do most of it. I couldn't do all of it, that's for sure, but I tried. And then on the last day when the manager came in as well, and there was tears, in that, was how great it was to see me happy, and I should be a life coach, which I just laughed off that time, like, me, personal trainer. Well, no, me, no. And here I am, because, in the other business, the Red Hill Boss, next to the business coaching, the confidence coaching and the personal development is really important, because we have to gain this emotional intelligence as leaders and business owners to tackle problems and, being innovative and all those things. And if we are uncertain and undecisive and insecure and doubting ourselves, we can't do those things, or at least not really well. So that's a really big part of my teaching, because I've gone through a lot of experience in life and business, and I just know that everything comes down to the person, which is you. So you are in the center of everything in your life and in your business. So growing and developing ourselves is the best thing we can do for ourselves, and everything is so much easier after, because I can give you a lot of strategies and methods and materials to learn. But if your mindset is not in the right place, then it will be really hard to implement them.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's the biggest barrier. It's the same reason why I think most people's success is on the other side of an uncomfortable conversation, like the debtors, the sale, the firing, the trying to encourage the staff member to have some accountability. But anyway, so we've done a podcast on a Sunday, so thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me, especially on a Sunday.
It's all right.